Hey everyone, and welcome to our 5th installment of Lightning Talks with Technical Leaders. As you may know, we dig into some of the brightest minds and influential leaders within the tech space. And today I am delighted to introduce Stephan Schmidt, which promises to be an episode full of great takeaways. Just to give you a short intro, Stefan launched his tech career as a self-taught coder, mastering the art of programming as a kid back in 1981. Not showing your age, Stefan, sorry. With ambitions of really kind of creating video games. I think that's where the passion started for Stefan. But the passion led him on to university, where he dived into computer science, specializing in distributed systems and AI. And with the dawn of the internet, Stefan became a pioneering coder and engineering manager for several startups. His journey continued as he founded a VC-backed startup, tackling a lot of challenges that come along the way with VC-backed startups, I'm sure. And some of his roles included being an engineering manager at ImmoScout24 and a CTO of an eBay subsidiary. Currently, Stefan now enjoys life as a CTO coach, guiding a number of technology leaders through the multiple hurdles of their ever-evolving role. So I'm also excited to announce that as of yesterday, Stefan released his own book, which is called Amazing CTO, which is now available to buy and read. So links and everything else will be included in the comments below. So make sure you catch a copy of that, because I'm sure it's also full of great stuff. But Stefan, I hope that was good, but welcome to the show.
Hello, Paul. Yeah, that was good. Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. So look, hopefully I've given a short overview of your background and everything, but it'd be great for you to give us a bit of a dive a little deeper into your background and experience and your kind of career journey to date, if that's cool.
So essentially, it's what you said. The details are a little bit more detailed. So yeah, I wanted to write video games as a kid. I thought I had great ideas about video games and what to do, and so I learned programming in a department store and then wrote some video games. Distribution was limited because it was in the 1980s, but I got essentially what I wanted, some nice games. Studied computer science, started out with AI in the 1990s, like in the beginning, like mid 1990s. And I thought, oh, AI is never going to make it. So I switched to distributed systems, and also studying philosophy on the side. So I could not be more wrong with the AI idea, but in the 90s it was really kind of dumb. And then I worked in a lot of startups in engineering positions and as a CTO, and did a lot of things, and I did a lot of different companies. I'm still a coder, so I'm still writing code each day. Currently, I write a lot of Go code, which I think I love coding, and I currently love Go because, as you can see, I'm not saying my age, but you see the color of my hair. I'm not that young anymore, and Go is nice because it's very simple, and I'm still being able to still get it. So that's what I currently do on the side, beside writing a book and beside being a CTO coach.
Cool. So in the experience that you gained over the years, what were some of the most pivotal moments of you as an engineering lead, and what were the kind of key learnings that you got along the way?
So the learnings is mostly from the situation I went through, which in high performance, fast growing startups, it's usually on one hand pressure and incidents and all of these stuff. That's the situation I remember. And on the other hand, the amazing things that you create from technology and from the team. And I made a lot of mistakes, and essentially that's what stayed with me as learnings, you know. So for example, I gave in too much to deadlines or to pressure, and then in the end, I personally had to live with the results of this. So that's one of the learnings. I would not today give in to pressure. Like if you're a professional coder, manager, and you come up with an estimation for something, for a task, then that's that, you know. And for one learning was really big learning, and a lot of times this happens to my coaches too, is that there is a lot of pressure, and you give in to pressure for estimations and for deadlines and stuff, and then you're screwed essentially some weeks later. So I think that was the biggest learning on the engineering, as an engineering, really, as in software engineering manager, I think.
Is that one of the most challenging things then in your space is coming back with estimations and then trying to keep to the deadlines?
Yes, there's even like I became a certified Scrum Master around 2000. I don't know really, but 2005 or something, early on. But then there is still, wherever I work, there is still this gap between the founders or the CEOs and the Agile. So Agile says, well, we have the roadmap. Well, we do this sprints, and it will take some sprints, and there's some velocity. But then the CEO comes and says, okay, and when it's going live, like you need to make it in March because of the VCs, or because of the customers, or because of whatever, you know. So there is always this gap between Agile, I think, and still the thinking of deadlines and estimations, and especially also coordination with marketing and sales. And, you know, there might be a lot of sales might sell more stuff with a new feature, you know, or if you're in the B2B space, then there's always this, okay, this company is paying us a lot of money, and so we write in a deadline into the contract. So this is where it's coming from. Even if you're agile and if you have backlogs and if you do planning and velocity and stuff like this. So yeah, it's a lot with all my whatever process they have, whatever setup they have. That's essentially with all of my clients, or most of the clients.
And what advice would you give now to your younger self, or anyone listening, in terms of, you know, how to deal with estimations and deadlines and pressure?
Don't give in to like if you want to be a professional, like I mean it's really it's a dead horse, but like comparing this to a bridge, you know, if I build a bridge in a year and then someone puts pressure on me, I can't build it in half a year. It's just not, it can't be done. And it's same, I think it's with software. People don't see it because software is invisible, but it's the same. I think so. So you can't condense it. And if you believe this takes 2 months, then it takes 2 months, and then you should stick to it. And if you get constant pressure on making it in 1 month happen, and you really know, like you talk to the team, the setup is great, the technology is great, everything is smooth, you don't do stupid things, so you know that you're doing the right things, then stick to your estimates. And if it's 2 months, then it's 2 months, you know. So because it's just like, and no one in the end, you know, no one remembers you making all these shortcuts, you know. So you make a shortcut, and that's what's really distinguishing, I think, engineering, for example, from marketing. You make a shortcut, and you live with that shortcut for the next 5 years. So you make some hacky things, and you don't do it properly, but you do some hard coding strings here and there, and some stupid stuff, or you do not migrate one technology out completely, but only 3/4, and then 3/4, and then you're stuck with this for the next 5 years. Whereas in marketing, and I might have a wrong view about marketing, but if a campaign goes bad, you do the next campaign. You're not like, marketing is not, perhaps if you screw up the brand, but marketing is not bound by the decisions and the stuff they made 2 years ago. By engineering is bound by the things and the decisions they made 2 years ago. So if you make shortcuts, and you to make the deadline, and then someone says, yeah, great, Stefan, you made the deadline, So now we're moving on. No one is thanking you a year in. Oh yeah, you made that deadline back then. So now the code is bad and now things takes longer. Everyone come up with, why does it take so long? Yeah, because we did a lot of shortcuts and because the code is bad. So that's not how people remember it, they will forget all the stuff that you did to make a deadline the moment you made the deadline. Okay, did it, done.
Yeah, it's quite interesting how often the short-term memory loss will activate at that point when someone's looking at it, asking questions, for sure. And when was that moment for you? I mean, talking about your career a little bit more here in terms of, I know you're still a programmer at heart, but when did you transition from being a programmer to a leader or a manager?
Very, very early on. So I'm kind of a fraud because I'm not a professional engineer. I'm not a professional developer because I was only working for a short time as a developer, and then immediately promoted to being an engineer because I was the first developer in a company, in a startup in the 1990s, and then I needed to hire more people, and so that's the way I was the first. I needed to hire more people. That's the way I became an engineer. So and then I've been an engineering manager, and this is how I've been an engineering manager since then. And I became a head of development because I needed to go to a computer fair and talk to Oracle and IBM, and because we wanted to use a database back then. And I said, I need a business card, and my boss said, yeah, here's a business card, but there was no name and no title on it, and it was a generic one. And I said, I need a title. And my boss said, write whatever you like. And I wrote head of development. And so I became head of development. And that's how I haven't been a team lead usually because I became head of development as a role. I could have become a CTO if I knew back then in the 1990s what a CTO was, then I would be a CTO.
So, from going from a programmer to an engineering leader, coming away from programming to people management and leadership tasks, how was that for you personally, and what kind of things did you learn quickly, I guess, because you jumped into it early along the way?
I wrote a little bit about this, I think, in my book. I was a very bad manager, I think, in the beginning, because there was no role model, no one told me what to do, and I just was trying things out and trying to do my best. So I was not very professional, and I was not a good manager. And the first bumping up of my skills was when I joined ImmoScout, and I met a really great manager, and a peer of mine, and I learned a lot from that person. His name's Ingmar, and I learned a lot from that person about hiring, about asking the right questions, about hiring processes, and being a professional recruiter as an engineering manager. And I think that was the first time I became much better as an engineering manager in one particular area in hiring. And then at the same company at ImmoScout, they had too much middle management, so they sent everyone to one-on-one trainings and stuff. So that's how I got into one-on-ones. But before that, before I joined ImmoScout, I was, I think, a very bad engineering manager. I mean, yeah, not at least in the professional sense,
What makes you say that? What do you think were the things that you were doing that were making you a bad engineering manager?
I did not do the things in a way like for people I managed and for planning and strategy. I just did my best with my limited knowledge and my limited skills. So so I'm not a bad manager. I was not a bad manager in the way that I tortured people or something, or like like on this Roman boats, like boom, 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 like this in some I don't know, some people older than me remember Asterix comics, and then there's always someone on the boat with a drum and then drumming.
Yeah.
So people, row fast and stuff. Not that bad, not bad in that sense, but not enabling people and supporting people and guiding people in a way that they deserved, and got the best out of the situation. So I was just doing the minimal things, struggling, and I think I also didn't, and it didn't come up to me that I was not that good. Up to a point when I met a really, really great manager, when the startup I was working for was bought by eBay, eBay brought in a lot of managers, and they brought in my boss, and that was the first time essentially I really met a really great manager, and I learned a lot of things from her. So I think I that was level 2. First level was this hiring stuff at the ImmoScout and a little bit of people management, and then the second level was really when I met that person, because she was really, really, really great. And yeah,
it's definitely good to have good mentors or coaches or peers at least that you can learn from. It's such a valuable experience. So I guess on the flip side of that, then Stefan, let's look at the flip side of the good engineering management practices. So diving into your leadership and management approach, kind of exploring how to build effective teams or fostering innovation or promoting diversity and inclusion or things like that. What were some of the key things now that you believe make you or you believe would help others become a great engineering leader?
I think the first thing is, don't be shy of being a leader. We too often want to be. I think you can be a leader and part of the team. It's not something. Sometimes people think, okay, I'm a leader, and then I can't be part of the team. I think you can be part of the team and being a leader. I think that's something I very short brief in the military. That's what I took out of the military, and I think a leader is someone telling people where to go, and I think that's leadership. Like this, drawing up a vision of the future with a goal, and then say, okay, this is where we want to go, whatever that is. I think you need to have a vision and as a goal to go somewhere, to get somewhere. As a leader, and sometimes people misunderstand what leadership means, but to me this is leadership essentially, and then getting people and enabling people to get there, or motivating people to get there. The goal and vision should be self-explanatory, self-evident. I always call it a golden place in the future, where it's obvious that it's a golden place in the future where people want to go. And if you have the trust of the team and the trust of the people will follow you there because they trust you that A, this is a golden future, and B, that you will get them there. So that's, I think, the most important thing for me for being a leader. And then having a strategy from the vision, having a strategy how to get there. On your own, with the input, wherever the strategy comes from. Talk to your management team, talk to the senior developers, come up with something on your own. But the strategy is a plan to get to that future. I think that's for me is engineering leadership. The second point, another point you mentioned is inclusion. I think that takes a lot of time because I think developers are not inclusive by default, which I think this comes from because there's always with developers there's a clear pecking order, like who's the best coder in the room, so there is, I think there's a more focus on a pecking order than in other departments, and because they value development so high and intellect so high and a lot of these attributes, I think developers are often not inclusive enough. And I don't mean on the scale of gender. Also, we still have a diversity and inclusion problem there. But including marketing or including other people and being open to other people's ideas and including other people's ideas. I think that is where a lot of teams struggle. A lot of people thinks, oh, marketing is stupid. They're stupid. They don't know what they're doing. No, they are not. They are clever. They are just not coders. That's the point. Or and there, I think you need to spend a lot of time to get people to be more inclusive and more open to ideas and more to other people in the department or in the company. And one way to do this is my example is I see managers as the modern shaman. I don't know what's in English, how it's pronounced. Shaman, is it even an English word? I don't know. Shamane, sure. A medicine. I don't know. That's probably not the right word, but like 40,000 years ago, in humanity, there were people who explained the world, like the ghosts in the sky and why the moon is rising and the sun is going down. Yeah. And these people, in German it's Schamane, but I'm not sure what's in English. And they are explaining the world, and people feel feel safe and think by themselves, okay, that makes sense. The moon is going up because the moon goddess chases the sun god away or something. That's explaining the world. That's the phenomena people see, and there's someone who's explaining these things, why this is happening, why this is a good thing, and all of that. And I think the manager today is in the same position. The manager needs to explain the context and explain the world around the people, and everyone in the company gets so many different informations. There's information from the CEO, there's a new strategy, there are customers. So there's so many different things, and people need to make sense of these things. And everyone, if you don't guide them, they come up with explanations that are probably not the right ones. And so today you need to explain why the sun is going up and the moon is going down, why the thing marketing is doing makes sense, why the new strategy makes sense, how the new strategy of the company that the CEO told everyone in the all hands makes sense, and how it does fit into the technology vision and how technology can contribute to this. You need to explain all the things and be a storyteller today. And then also a lot of things fall in place, like the inclusion topic from before.
Yeah, definitely. It's all about basically everyone understanding everyone, right? That's critical in business, because we've all played the child's game Chinese whispers, and we know how wrong that can go.
Yeah. Yes.
So you mentioned earlier as well about one of your first learnings in leadership really being behind hiring. I think you mentioned Inmar kind of showing you some great advice, or giving you some great advice. So obviously we're in the world of technical recruiting. That's what I do day in, day out. But what's tell me a bit about your experience with recruitment, and what do you feel are some of the best practices in today's world that are so important for leaders to adopt?
I think there are I see two mistakes in when I sometimes help my coaches and their team leads or senior developers become better at recruiting. And two things I see is first, the goal of the recruiting process is to make a decision. If I want to hire a person or not, that's the decision you need to make in the end. And all the questions you ask, all the stuff you do as one goal in mind, you need to have one goal in mind, which is I need to make that decision in the end. And if you can't make that decision, you have asked the wrong questions. And a lot of people follow questions they read somewhere on the internet or they have seen somewhere else, but they don't know what to do with the answer. The questions they ask are not helping them making that decision. And then so they come up with a lot of questions. They do, like, someone says do this, someone says do this, someone says have a code interview, someone says different things, but they don't know how in the end it helps them make a decision. So I think the most important thing is whatever you do, it needs to help you make the decision yes or no. that's for me, that's the key of hiring. And the second thing, in technical, I think technical people focus too much on technical questions. Whenever I go into an interview, and then, for example, I did a lot of recruiting, and a lot of people in my departments also did recruiting, and it happened several times that they came to me and said, Stefan, that's a great person, we want to hire that person. And then they said, okay, let's have a final interview. And then they went in with me. So, for example, team lead went in with me interviewing the person. And after the interview, the team lead said, Stefan, after I ask your questions, I no longer want to hire that person. So because I'm not on technical things, I'm more on culture and fit and motivation and taking responsibility and how people like processes or not. And so I think people in technology focus too much on technical questions. I had very seldom problems with hires for technical expertise, but mostly for other things. So yeah, I think these are the two things that are very important to make sure, as an engineering manager, that everyone who's recruiting, and I think everyone can recruit, a junior can help recruiting, everyone should recruit, that people focus on these two things, making sure they can make a decision best the same day, and don't base their decision only on technical questions.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. I think, there's definitely something behind, in terms of the personality. I mean, you can't teach someone's desire or personality, but they can always learn technical skills, right? So
yes,
it's about, having the right balance, of course, but if you don't have someone who's got the right fit to the team, then it can be, a disastrous hire or a toxic hire, which can really damage the team overall. So when it comes to the actual recruitment process itself, from what you've seen over the years, what's been the optimal solution in terms of, hiring a great engineer? Because there's lots to be said about, short decision paths and making decisions quickly compared to, a full 4 or 5 interview process where, you make sure you're getting the right person from a technical point of view. But what's your thoughts or advice there?
I think making quick decisions and having a lot of interviews is not, you can have both. I feel like the best companies are investing a lot of time in recruiting. So I would also invest a lot of time, and I have no problem with 3 interviews. Especially I'm a fan of 360 interviews. So more people interview the person, like peers or the direct reports and the boss or some important people in marketing that the person needs to interact with. So I'm for more interviews because it also signals it always signals to the candidate that we're taking this. So this is very important to us, and recruiting is very important to us, and getting the right people is very important to us, and that's attractive to good people. Like if you have a difficult recruiting process, that's good to get good people, because it's signaling to them we're interested in good people. But still, you can make this decision on the same day. Like if you have 3 interviews on the day, you can make the decision on the same day, and you can send the contract out, and you can call the person the same day. And that's something I recently discussed in a recruiting workshop. If you send the contract out the same day, then the candidate has the problem, because the candidate has the contract, and then the candidate needs to decide, do I sign the contract or do I keep interviewing others, or has interviewed and is waiting for other companies' contracts? If you send the contract late, then you're in trouble, because the person can decide between several different things.
Especially if they're a good engineer, right? When it comes to hiring, then I think moving fast is critical, right? Because good engineers, if you do leave it 2-3 weeks, maybe more, then you are in danger of having several bits of competition for someone, right?
Yes. They have the options. They have 3 contracts, and then they decide what contract they take. So the risk is on your side as a company. Whereas if you send a contract early, they have the problem because they need to decide, should I risk it waiting? Should I sign this? So you're always in a better position if you send a contract right away instead of waiting 3 weeks.
Do you reckon that that's been kind of pivotal in you securing, good engineers quickly in being able to consolidate it down to maybe one day of interviews and then making a decision after?
Yes. And for example, at ImmoScout in the beginning, we went into the cleaning tool, the closet, after the interviews as the team leads, and they made a decision and say yes hire or no hire, sitting there on buckets and making that decision. Because I think you can make the decision fast, and then you get the right people, because you also signal to the person, we are interested in you, we want to have you. If you tell the person, yeah, wait, we have other interviews, what are you signaling? You're giving the wrong message.
Showing you're serious for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. And I guess as alongside that, you obviously with recruitment comes scaling and growth in an organization. So you've obviously seen probably some good things and some not so good things, Stefan. Perhaps you can give us a bit of your advice in terms of scaling and growth, what to do and what not to do, and what are the pros and cons of each.
I think scaling, the mistake I see people make is scaling too early. And I give the advice of having an architecture and a system set up that scales 10 times. You have 1,000 customers, build something that scales to 10,000 customers. But what I see is people not scaling from 1,000 customers to 10,000, but from 1,000 to 1,000,000. They want to build stuff that's scaling 1,000,000 times, which is much too much. It takes too much effort. And it might take a long time until you reach 1,000,000 customers, if ever. So people scale too early, far too wide into the future. And we can't look into the future. Otherwise, I would play the lottery. I don't, because I can't look into the future. And I also can't look into the future architecture-wise or scaling-wise, or the company might pivot, or the strategy might change. So if I plan too far into the future scaling-wise, I, with a high probability, build the wrong things. So scale for the next year, build something that scales for the next year. Because if you have 1,000,000 customers, there will be so much money, there is no problem in changing things. And from my experience, when scaling systems, on one hand, it's good. You should do like failover, or not having a single point of failure, or over provision things. So you can do a lot of things that are no-brainers. You should not do the obvious things. You should do the obvious things. But then there's stuff, whenever something broke, because the company was growing a lot, usually with traffic spikes over the holidays, or at this point where like the traffic really spiked, then stuff broke. And it often broke in ways we did not anticipate. For example, one story, website down because the checkout went down all the time, and the checkout went down because the marketing used a new kind of coupon, of rebate coupon, and the developer built it in a way that it was pulling all the users of the coupon out the database, count them, and then check if the coupon could be used anymore. And that worked for 1,000 people, but it didn't work for 50,000 people. Like if they tried to pull in all the 50,000 people, and it was also an OR mapper, so it pulled in more data than needed. It pulled in some orders, and then whenever someone entered a coupon code, the server crashed. And that was a way that we did not anticipate. That would be a problem with scaling, or we had some scaling problems with running 2 servers on a system and the file handles depleted, or the TCP/IP window we had TCP/I window problems because of the interaction of two servers. So one server was fine, but the interaction of two servers, that didn't work with a spike. So there are a lot of things that can break, and you can't anticipate all the things that are going to break. So I would say for scaling, do the obvious things, don't do stupid things, and then be prepared for things breaking and be excellent at fixing things. Like I tell people, if something breaks, and if your website breaks for 1 millisecond, no one cares. If you can have 1 million incidents a day if each incident is 1 millisecond. No data loss and stuff.
Yeah.
So if you're very good at fixing things, that's more important, I think, than trying to build something really scalable.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just hope you're good at fixing things.
Yep.
Cool. All right. And any other things in terms of, from a growth perspective, from, personnel of the things that are good to do, not good to do. I think we've all seen recently how, a lot of tech companies have made huge layoffs across the world. So anything that you can share that you feel is good practice for companies in terms of personnel growth?
I think personal growth for people is very important, and to me it ties into the topic of retention. Like whenever I look into companies that have a retention problem, usually the people there have no vision for their own personal growth in the company. And if they can see themselves in the company in 2 years having grown in a new context with an expanded role or a new role, people will stay. But if people feel they can't grow anymore in a company because perhaps the company is no longer growing as fast or changing as fast for whatever reasons, they feel they are not growing enough, then they will leave. So that's if you want to fix retention and turnover, I think you have to fix personal growth of everyone inside the company to make them stick with the company. So I think this is very, very important. I had no clue, but I was for some time I should become CEO of one of the eBay companies. There are so many eBay companies. eBay owns a lot of companies. eBay Inc. owns a lot of companies. And so the company came to me and said, Stefan, tech is working fine at the company. You're doing great. What are you going to do? And we came up with a plan. Okay, let's do general management. I could become a CEO. For some reasons, I decided after a year of high potential training and stuff and mentoring to not do that. But I met great people in the US at eBay. And one of the managers, vice president of something, said he's investing 50% of the time in his team to grow his team. And I thought that was totally off for me, like the time spent to make the team better and to grow people. And I took that away with me. And you should really put a lot of effort into growing your direct reports. And the way I do it is with one-on-ones. I have a lot, like a one-on-one is the first meeting I introduce when I arrive somewhere. And I often need to introduce it because companies don't have it, startups don't have it. And it's usually the last meeting I do before I leave. And most of the time I spend in one-on-ones is on personal growth. It's not about status updates. It's not about how this feature going or how is this going. People can send me an email if they want to. If I want the status of something, send me an email. Better I don't know this status because I expect you to do it and own it and be responsible. Call me if there is a problem where I can help, then I will help. But otherwise, I'm not interested in the status of things. I trust people to do the right thing. But too many people use one-on-ones as status updates. I don't. I invest in the growth of the persons. And the biggest challenge there, I think, is finding out with the person how and where they want to grow and what they want to do. Like I talk to people and say, what do you envision for yourself? Where do you want to grow? Oh, Stefan, I'm happy. I'm doing this and this. Everything is fine. So getting someone from everything is fine to I want to grow and I know where to grow, that's the biggest challenge, at least for me.
Yeah, because I think people are sometimes always too happy to just say, "Oh yeah, everything's great. I'm fine." And it's a bit of a kind of a glass wall sometimes, right? There's always something behind it, and I think as humans naturally we want to become better or do things or do more, essentially, and finding that out as a manager is difficult. I mean.
Yeah.
What kind of things do you actually do then to encourage people to share with you, what areas they want to grow in, and then how do you actually help them?
One thing is to find out if they want to, for example, if they want to become a manager or not. That's often a crucial decision people need to make in engineering. Do I want to become an engineer manager, or do I want to stay on a technical track, architect, principal? So this is a difficult decision. And a lot of people don't want to become managers. One reason people don't want to become managers because their boss is not the best manager, and their boss is usually saying, "Oh, management is." They are kind of whining about management, about meetings, about all this stuff, and then they come to me and say, "Stefan, the people on my team, no one wants to become a manager." Yeah. If you tell them all the time how bad management is and how bad it is to be a manager, and then think they want to become a manager, that's not working. So I think people need to see role models of things in a company where they think, okay, I want to do this. I want to become as good as that person. So this is one source of how people want to grow. There need to be good role models not that I don't say I'm the best role model, but there need to be role models, I think, that people, and that's also especially the case also for female engineering leaders. There need to be role models so people can aspire to become someone. Another source is talking to a person about what they really like to do, what they have liked to do in their childhood, or what they really enjoy, and what parts of their job are they enjoying, and what parts of their job are they what parts they don't like. That's often also a discussion that goes for some time to find out what they want to do more of and what they want to do less of. And I think another important thing is, for example, in eBay, you could just change departments. It was very, very open. So someone in customer service could go to marketing, or from marketing to sales, or you could become a coder. So the companies was very open to you changing your job. You didn't need to stay in tech all your life. If you think, oh, I wanted to go to marketing, you could become a marketing manager. eBay was very, very open. And I think that's the reason that a lot of people stayed there for a long time, or even came back. They left and they came back. So that compared to other tech companies, I think at the time when I was there, I think eBay, a lot of people stayed there for a long time. And the reason was they could grow because they could change roles. So people need to have opportunities. And one thing is to find out what they like and what they don't like, and seeing role models. And then it's a long process of talking. And it might take 6 months or longer to find out what someone wants or doesn't want.
Yeah, and like you said, sometimes it goes outside of the realms of work, right? In terms of learning more about that person and their personal life, yes, and hobbies, yes, and things like that. Yeah. Cool. Some great advice. And I guess as we spoke about it at the start of the call, you mentioned AI and that you were involved with it very early on. But let's talk about that technology trend for a moment, and your opinion on artificial intelligence and the impact that it has or will have in software engineering.
I have a very limited experience of AI. This model train here is there because I wrote some AI stuff to detect model train classes, what class of locomotive this is with an AI on a set and stuff like that. I was interested in that. So that's how some years ago I got into training myself in AI, because I think as an engineering manager, you need to know, at least, it's how I work. I need to know about some things on my own. I need to do things. I need to write some code in Go to decide if it's good or not. I need to do I need to do practical things to really get an understanding of things and make a decision. So that's how I got into AI. I think what people don't want to hear is that I fear software engineering as at its end. Jim Keller, I think, said in an interview recently, there will be no software in 10 years. I'm not sure about 10 years, but I think the writing is on the wall. And I think we're moving as industry, we're moving more like to a Star Trek model where, I have some data, and then I say, computer, why are we not selling in North America? And then the computer says, the reason why you're not selling in North America is ABC. Mm-hmm. And then I say, well, then let's do something. And then the AI comes up with stuff to do, and the AI does the stuff to make more sales in the US. And you no longer need stuff like HubSpot. You don't need to decide, should I send a mobile message, an email, a banner, Google ad? That's stuff that we're currently doing. And you don't need the systems to manage that. You also don't need CRM systems. And if all these systems go away, you also don't need people to write these systems. So I think, sadly, because I love coding a lot, and I will do coding next 30 years, even if it's not needed. But I think this is where we're going. So there's a general system. There's just data and a general system that operates on the data, And if I ask the system, I don't know, how many repeat customers do we have, and all the business stuff. I don't know about other things. So I don't know about nuclear power plants. I don't know about planes. I don't know about that stuff. I don't know. But in this startup web IoT world, where I have operated the last 40 years, I think sooner or later general AI will replace a lot of stuff that you today need to write code for, and then there's just no code.
Yeah, I can imagine it's a scary thought for some people, right? When it's potentially their career and livelihood in the future. I guess you'll always have someone who needs to know the code, right, to be able to fix AI if it goes wrong.
No, there's this film. Brazil. I don't know if you know it.
I haven't seen it. No.
It's a dystopia, but I think by Terry Gilliam. But I'm not so sure. And there is one resistance fighter in that dystopia, and that's a plumber. I think so. There plumbers are needed all the time. So I think there still need some people to do the plumbing work for all the AI and all the data. So that's still something that people need to do. And again, I mean, today there are people who write Fortran code. So there will always be people who write then in 20 years TypeScript code. Just like how today people write Fortran. So this is not going away overnight. So it just dwindles down. But I think it will dwindle down. And at some point, new system. The first thing I'm currently thinking about for an article about some milestones that might happen along the way. And I think the first major milestone will be probably data teams. I have helped a lot of companies migrate to a better data setup and get their data warehouse right and all the stuff right. But I think the first milestone will probably be a data software that does away with all the data warehousing and things. All the people who work as a data analyst and a data scientist and all of that stuff probably will be replaced by one system where someone just goes and says, okay, draw me a diagram of all the customers last week, or retention, or whatever you want, and then it comes up with the stuff. That's I think is a major milestone, and that's not far away. I think that might be 5 years away. That it's really, really practical, and that it's on a level like Notion or Slack. Like it's so good. It's good enough, or it's good enough that it hits the market and it drives adoption in a year. Like I felt like Notion, no one used Notion, and then a year later, everyone used Notion. No one was using Slack. Everyone was using Slack, and I think this data tool, as soon as someone comes up with it, and you just point it to BigQuery or Redshift, and then the CEO can do all the data stuff, just like this. That will be the first milestone, and I think that will be within the next 5 years. So if you're a data scientist, that I think is that's tough.
Yeah, time.
But I might be wrong. I can't look into the future. As I said, I'm not playing the lottery, so I have no clue about the future. So talking about the future is fun, but
we never know. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And obviously not to finish on too much of a downer for anyone who's in software engineering, but I guess, for anyone that's aspiring to becoming an engineering leader or a CTO, Stefan, yes. What would be some of the key bits of advice that you might offer to someone?
And sorry, coming back to the last question, I'm often a difficult interview guest, but coming back to the last question, this will open opportunity of creativity in ways we have not seen yet. So it's not like I believe, the coding will go away, but I believe that a lot of developers come into development because of creativity and not because of mathematics. And I think the AI world will help developers or help people who currently make developers because of creativity, because they want to create stuff out of nothing. Something that developers do. They will be doing this in a better way in the future, just not writing Go code. So I don't want to make it. It's not a dystopia. It's really enabling these people that currently write code for creativity do some other astonishing things. That's how I see it. So I'm optimistic.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of other jobs that will come up in the future.
Yeah. In the same realm, I want to be creative with technology, but just not writing Go code.
Exactly. I mean, it's crazy to think I'm older than Google. Google wasn't around when I was a kid. So, and that's a short time span if you think of it, so I'm sure there'll be plenty of other options for people in many different areas that we haven't even thought about yet.
Computers haven't been like the astonishing thing. I feel like if this ends in 10 years or 20 years, the astonishing for my life is, as a kid, home computers got into homes, and people computer rose out of the mainframes, got into every people's home. From a low amount of developers became 1 million developers, and it goes up. And then perhaps when in 20 years, when I'm 70 or something, it goes down again. So this is kind of a nice thing. In my youth, development, I became a developer, and then at the end of my days, development goes down. So just for my personal life, this is like a nice story, I think. About the CTO thing, I have some ideas there too. The most important thing, if you want to become a CTO, is you need to become a CTO. And what I see people doing is they sidestep too much in their career. They are a senior developer, they want to become a team lead. If you want to become a team lead, look out for team lead jobs. And then there is another company, a headhunter sends you an email. Do you want to become senior developer for Go? Oh, I like Go. Yeah, I should become a senior developer for Go. Oh yeah, 20% more salary. I do that. And then you have just thrown away 3 years of your time window to become CTO. So if the biggest thing is, if you want to become a CTO, aim for becoming a CTO. Do really want to become a CTO, and don't sidestep. Don't go from a senior developer position to a senior developer position. Go from a senior developer position to a lead position, and from a lead position to a team lead position, and from team lead position to head of development. Or you can go from a large company of a team lead to a small company for a CTO, and then to a large company becoming a VP of engineering, for example. So it's always about the company size. Large company would not hire a team lead into a CTO position, but a smaller startup would. And then you have the CTO already on your title, and then it makes it much easier for a larger company to hire you as a CTO. but your career can't go sideways if you want to become, not that I say you should become a CTO or career is a good thing, but if you want to become a CTO and you think career is a good thing, don't sidestep, don't move sideways.
Do you think that's quite difficult though? Because, often when I get, requests from clients of ours asking for a CTO or a lead developer, it often comes coupled with, yeah, but we want someone who's had this experience for 2 or 3 years. We need someone who's been there, done it, got the t-shirt, and can prove to us that they can hit the ground running.
Yeah.
So I think, sometimes I speak to quite a few people at the moment where, they find it quite hard to take that step up if it's not naturally happened within their own company, and almost having to sidestep to get the first foot on the ladder to potentially go up again. So do you see that as something quite difficult in today's landscape?
I think being promoted in most companies is a difficult thing because there are few promotion spots and a lot of people who want to be promoted. So I think it's easier bad to say for the company, but it's usually easier to just change the job to get promoted. Inside a company, it's a rare event, I feel. When I was working at the startup at Brands for Friends, we were selling overstock of fashion brands, and the company went to Nike and said, we want to work with you, and Nike did not answer, so you had to start with something that's more on your level. And then we worked with a brand that's more on our level that no people knew, but that was growing. And then from that, we jumped to a little bit higher and higher and higher and higher. And after some years, we sold Nike stuff and Adidas stuff and Ralph Lauren stuff and, all of these things. Or in the startup for my wife, she had a startup for event locations. If she went to a large event location, they just ignored the email, But she went to restaurants and all the small stuff. And then that grew and grew and grew. And the website became large. And there was articles written about the company. And so in the end, we had a really, really great branding event together with the Olympia Stadium in Berlin. That was really, really great. On eye level, the Olympia Stadium in Berlin was in the company colors, pink company colors. And, because 4 years ago, they just ignored you. And so you need to make small steps and see what's possible. And I think the same. So what has that to do with the career? I think it's the same with the career. You need to find things that are valuable to your new employer. Why should they hire you? And they usually hire you because they have a problem that they want to solve. And especially if you get into management, not totally on the level of senior development, but if you go into management, usually they have a problem they want to solve, and so they open a new position. And you should have the skills and worked on that. For example, when I went from ImmoScout to that startup, the startup had a really big problems with stability. I was working at ImmoScout, so they reached out to me and wanted to talk about stability and things. And then during the lunch, it was a business lunch. During the lunch, they asked me, Stefan, could you imagine working for us? And I said, yeah, I can imagine a lot of things. So that's how because I was useful. And so I think you should think about how can I useful to what companies with my skill set that they don't have and that they need. And I would go to I always ask people on LinkedIn, if you want to work for a company, ask the CTO of the company on LinkedIn. And a kind of a trick is ask the person, I want to do this and this and this. Does it make sense to send my CV? Does it make sense to apply for a role? And then usually the CTO says, yeah, send the CV. Perhaps they ignore you, but if they don't ignore you, they will not say, no, don't send the CV. But they will send the CV. And then you send a CV to the HR department and tell the HR department, as requested by your CTO, here's my CV. You will definitely get an interview because no one dares to throw you out if you say requested by the CTO. So you need to should see a way to get in. And but like recently on Hacker News, there was this thread. Someone said, I sent out 1,000 applications and I didn't get an interview. I think if you send out 1,000 applications, you don't fit 1,000 companies. It's better to send 5 applications for 5 companies where you know why you fit their, they have a problem, you read about that, and this is how you get in. You bring something to the table to a company that needs something. And then it gets, and then a larger company will hire you even if you're from a smaller company, so it can't be this, the gap can't be this high, but the gap can be that high and then that high, and this is how you progress.
Definitely quality over quantity there for sure. And I think, showcasing your value proposition clearly and specifically to each organization definitely will make you stand out from the crowd so much more for sure.
And it's always like to tell people, think about, I'm often not that good myself, but I know the right things. I just don't do them sometimes. But think about the reader of your CV. Don't try to present yourself. Like too often you write from yourself outwards. This is the stuff I want to bring into the CV. No, always think about the reader. Like the reader's reading your CV, the reader's reading your email. They should, the goal is they should come up with a result of why hasn't that person applied earlier? Why now? Why not earlier? So that's what they should go away from your CV. And that only happens if you think about the reader, what do they want to read? What problems do they have? And then you write the CV or your application form or your email in a way that fits that. And it's not like, oh, I have done all these things and I need to get all these things into a CV. So it's not from you outwards, but it's looking at the reader of the CV. So if you send out the same CV twice, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, great tip for sure. I think it should be tailored for each role, and you should know of course why you want to work. I think it comes back to the why, the old Simon Sinek why.
Yeah, yes. Excellent book.
Great. Well, I really appreciate your time, Stefan. I mean, it was fantastic to have you on the show. And I guess to wrap things up, I always like to know something outside of the realm of work, in apart from your book, of course, which we'll say at the end. But what do you do in your spare time? What are your kind of hobbies and interests outside of programming?
We have a dog since 2 years, so I spend a lot of time with our dog. She's the best dog. I was a cat person, and then I would never imagine having a dog, and now we have a dog, and that's the best thing ever. And so we spend a lot of time with the dog, and a lot of time with we have in Germany there's this small, I don't know if this is in the UK, but the small garden somewhere else, like, because of people like factory workers should be able to have a garden. So there are a lot, especially in East Germany, there are a lot of gardens somewhere out, like a kilometer out of the city. And we have a garden there, which is a lot of work and which I enjoy a lot because you don't need to think. You're just on your knees and do your stuff, no thinking, just doing. So I really enjoy gardening for not thinking, and I enjoy our dog a lot.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to have a break away from the computer. What breed is your dog?
Dachshund.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah. Never, and especially I could never imagine, like I could not imagine having a dog, and I could double that, never imagine having a dachshund. That's a dog for old people, and so that's not, I could, perhaps I would, but even older than me. But she's so great.
Yeah, they're great fun. Yeah, I had a dog for the best part of 10 years, and now I've got children to replace the dog almost. So yeah, I don't think I'll have a dog again for a long while.
You come back to a dog. So
yeah, definitely great company and great for, just getting out and having a walk. Because I think, when I remember talking to my dad once and said, why don't you just go out for a walk if you're bored or something? He was like, yeah, but I feel stupid just walking around the town. It's like, if you had a dog, you wouldn't feel stupid.
yes. Yeah. Yes.
Great. Well, look, Stefan, again, thanks again for coming on the show, and obviously for
Real
everyone,
pleasure.
it's been great to have you, and for everyone tuning in. Obviously, if you like this episode, please like and comment on the link below, and all the links for everything in connection with Stefan, including his new book, will be included. So make sure you pick up a copy, and I will see you all soon. Cheers, Stefan.
Bye.
Bye.